Good evening. We call the special meeting to order. It's Wednesday, June 26, 2024. This is a special meeting of the Commission of the City of Norwich. The roll call. We have members online. No Miles online.
I'm here.
Dean Mason and Jim Cordo all here, as is Nicholas Schwartz. So we do have one. And at this time, I would ask for motion to approve the minutes of the 21st meeting. I'm going to excuse myself from that since I wasn't here. I was here. I make a motion on the minutes. Okay, motion by Ben. Second by Dean Mason. Any discussion on the minutes? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so those minutes have been approved. Under communications, I want to note that we received a letter and email today from Helen Bartlett at CLE Engineers regarding 105 Stonington Road special permit 2405 application, and that they are requesting this matter be tabled until our next meeting, as they time together some additional details for their application. So with that being said, okay, motion to table that special permit. Okay.
I'll make a motion to table that.
Motion by Dean Mason to table.
This is Ella. I'll second.
And Ella seconds. Any discussion? Do I was motion to table this on the table? So now all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Nancy has indicated she's abstaining. We were applications.
I just want to clarify for the record that will be July 16th.
That's what I answered. Month. That being said, are there any other communications?
No.
Other communications, so public hearings. First matter is SP 2402, 164, 165 Golden Street. Property on Boswell Avenue, located between 363 and 345 Boswell Avenue. Okay, this is a request for a special permit for the construction of an elementary school, including associated parking areas, access drives, play areas, and stormwater management improvements. Property of an application in the city of Norwich. So the assessment map 86, lot 3. Lots 13 and 14, map 24, lot 1, lot 23, it's the zone and so with that, we have motion to open public hearing. Motion by Kathy to open public hearing. Second by Jim Porto, in favor? Aye. Okay. So the public hearing is open on SB 24. I'm sorry. I was going to ask everybody to silence, and that's a fire. So I can't silence. So, the public hearing on 2402 is now open. Do you have any presentation to start, or the applicant just
Yeah. Mr. Chairman, I'm Greg Smalley from BRA Architects, representing the city in this application. Online with us are our consultant team, including landscape architect, engineer, and our civil engineer. We have a brief overview for you of the project as a whole, which Dan will take us through each time I ask little slide. So the, go ahead, first slide, this is, as you may be aware, this grew out of the master plan of the city commission to look at all of the school's needs, both, from a facilities point of view, fiscal needs to keep the buildings running, and then work to properly align with the educational needs of the city. We undertook that and finished it about 2 years ago. This is where you started and what you're currently running, which equals to 7 elementary schools with a decrease in enrollment and an increasing fiscal need for those buildings. We worked with the building committee to effect a more efficient and more educationally appropriate environment for the elementary schools. Next slide. One of the drivers for this is this represents the attendance zones for the elementary schools. And one of the drivers in educational planning is to have the schools address as near as possible their immediate neighborhoods and to reduce traffic for children, to eliminate going through high traffic areas or areas of potential danger, such as going through downtown, crossing the rivers, those type of things. Part of what happened when Greenville closed is those students needed to go somewhere, and you'll see the lower portion in pink is the stamped in attendance area. And you see it extends over to where Greenville used to be. So now all those guys are traveling across the city to get to a school. And then Uncas in green at the bottom picked up some of Greenville, traveling back across downtown again. And then Moriarty stretched down to pick up Greenville. So this led to some discussion with the committee looking for a piece of property where we could put a school that might adequately or more adequately address the downtown and southeastern portions of the city. Next slide. The plan that was presented and adopted brought about 4 new elementary schools. So we're replacing Moriarty, Stanton, Uncas, and building a new school, the location of which was agreed best served at Golden Street on the old Greenville School Center. This would take veterans and chronic off the line as well as Huntington, and more closely align the buildings size-wise with one another, with the same amenities and with the same educational opportunities for children across the district. This plan was put forth to the voters, approved by the city of Norwich voters, and has been accepted in by the state at a reimbursement rate for the first phase of 80% of the cost of building items paid by the state, 50% paid by the city. Next slide, please. And part of our thinking as we went along was to look at the plan for the city and picked up on the nodes of development and nodes of activity, and wanted to make sure that we addressed as nearly as possible, or leveraged as much as possible, the investment into the schools in accomplishing what was set out in the city's plan. Greenville obviously sits right on that Greenville node, which would be great on paper, but it also works better for us because the utilities are above adequate for us out there. Norwich Public Utilities has agreed, after studying the application, that they can provide water, electric, and sanitary to that area. We know a lot of need for infrastructure improvements, and it's also a city property. We always try to avoid repurposing vacant property. We like to reuse city owned property as much as possible, and take care of the investment that's already been made as much as we can. In this case, Greenville School was taken down. Next slide. When the Greenville School was taken down, you were left with what's not quite a park and not quite an abandoned site. It's kind of too small for real fields and too big to just let it sit. It's quite a bit of property. It does become a parking lot for semis. We've seen there a number of times, and gets quite a bit of use from the neighborhood community. The times we've been out there, it's used quite well. A nice little playground on it, which will be actually increased in size. The school is built and made age appropriate for children 2 to 5 and 5 to 12. So it would be 2 playgrounds finished. Next slide. So this is the combination of 3 pieces of property that we were talking about. As well as to the north, top of the page. And a little backwards J shape or the J shaped piece of property is one piece. The big portion in the center is the old Greenville pool site, and there's a little trapezoid shape right there. That's actually city owned, is where the playground now sits, but it's not. It has not been appended to the site. This site has about 30 feet worth of topography from top to bottom. It's got quite a bit of a drop, and the design for proposing takes advantage of that topographic change as much as possible. Good. Next slide. What I'll do. Sure.
So, back to that. So that little rectangular piece that has the wetlands there, that is owned by the city?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I wasn't sure.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough to pick out. This is from the city's GIS, and you see that it doesn't exist there. That's a piece of property. We found it when we did tax card reviews. So we outlined in the heavy yellow line is the Greenville site proper, including a little trapezoid shape, and the dotted line above it is the Boswell property. The green outlines three plateaued areas, the big three running up through the center of the drawing. The lowest one is where the school previously was. The middle one is fields for the previous school were, and then the upper one was an area that we thought might be usable going forward. In the lower left are two relatively flat areas. Unfortunately, you see the blue is it's a wetlands area that we have to address, and we did that with wetlands approval. And also not really showing up on this is a gas line that runs right along the bottom edge of that wetlands, up in the green area, then up toward Boswell, which is now planned to be abandoned in place. So we'll site the neighborhoods once that's done. Next slide. I'm going to walk us through this, and then we'll bring the consultants back in for any questions anybody has. It's on here, and they're reloaded faster and easier. In this drawing, we rotated this 90 degrees. It fits on the page a little bit better. Boswell to the upper right, and Golden Street to the lower left. And what you're seeing here is the purple areas are stormwater retention areas. The light green is a wetlands area to be created. The magenta below that is a wetlands area being impacted. And then the orange line around the top is our uplands protection area. This was as presented to the Uplands Commission and by them at the previous meeting, and will allow us to collect the water that's on site. Reduce the runoff that's going off site now. There's no real flushing system on the site. This will have a series of catch basins and underground piping, and then discharge out to those two retention ponds, be clarified and settled out, and then discharged to that. Next one. Now, an illustrated site plan, and it will walk us through this. We're still looking with Boswell to the upper right and Golden to the lower left. And you see the school is on that larger plateau area. We have a bus entry from Golden Street and around to the lower portion of this drawing, where buses would stack and discharge in the morning and then stack and load in the afternoon. There is a student entry to this side of the building. And then above that, still to the left, is the main parking area for visitors and staff, with the main entry to the building right where Dan's cursor is right now. Off of Boswell is a separate entryway, and that is designed for during the school day for staff. And then for public use on weekends and whatnot, that would probably be the primary parking area that would be used. And we'll show you how that works when we get into the floor plan. There's two playgrounds I talked about are shown in red. There's a basketball court in blue, the play area right next to that. And then taking advantage of that little flat area I showed you earlier would be some grass play area. We're respecting the buffers around us, keeping as many trees as possible to still let us grade the site. As I said earlier, we have about 30 feet worth of topographic change to take care of. And you see the gray lines that run top to bottom between two portions of the building. Those are where we're experiencing or showing the greatest amount of grade change. So we talk about retaining walls in that area and some removable materials. Next slide. We did look at traffic because we would be reintroducing a use that was previously there and increasing the size. So we want to be very sure that we had the good service level. We come up with a level of service of C or better on the intersection study, which is I think 7 on this case. And with that, we said, as I explained, buses pick up, drop off, use Old Street, split staff split into entries. That has the effect of offsetting cars arriving in the morning, leaving in the afternoon. The suggestion from our traffic engineers is to install a traffic signal with an advanced warning signage on Oswald Avenue School Drive. And we're continuing to review that in Public Works and Police Department and Public Safety. And then left turns into the school from Boswell being prohibited. So if you were traveling south of Boswell, there'd be a sign saying no left turn, and that's due to sight distance over the hills to continue south on Boswell. So this is working for us now. Levels of service are acceptable, and we're continuing to fine tune this with Public Works and Police Department. Next slide. Now, floor plan, we can run through these fairly quickly. They are now turned to the northwest half of the sheet again. This is the lower level. There is pre-K, kindergarten to the upper left, grade 1 to the bottom of the page, cafeteria at this level, the community health center, it's done in conjunction with the local hospital, and the administration. So we have the adults at the 2 doors. Admin is to the left at the nexus of the 2 wings, and that would be where visitors and parents would enter the building during the school day. They would meet an administrator before they're allowed into the building, and someone dropping something off would not have to come into the building. So it addresses some of the safety concerns that we saw in the schools we studied. To the right side are doors that would be open when students are arriving by bus. They would have a school staff administering that arrival. They would be closed during the day. The community health center has its own door and it has control of access at that door. It does not have access into the school during the day. The school controls that access. And that is not the same as the nurse's office for the school. Those are back to back by community use and school use. Next. Get to the middle floor, grades 2 and 3, and some special, so band, music, and art. And part of the rationale for this is that under building code, anyone first grade and younger cannot be in a regularly programmed space without staff that doesn't get used by everybody else. So we can put art and music on this floor, and they have a stair that's out in that center corridor that would be used by them to get back. The reasoning for that is in emergency, you don't want the little guys being on the same staircase as the bigger guys. So we have to program the buildings in such a way that we can get them up and down without interacting with everyone else. Next slide. And the upper level, we got 5th and 6th grades in the 2 wings, and then the gymnasium up to the top. And this is taking advantage of the grade change as much as we can by pushing the gym out onto that plateau where the fields are now. And what it does is with parking to the north of it, it allows the gymnasium to be used by the public during all school hours with no wait for anything to get into the rest of the building. It has its own parking area north of it. It has the doors that seal it off. It has bathrooms. It's a self-contained space for the public, but during the day, it is usable by the students. And first grade and younger issue that I brought up is solved here because it exits directly. Next slide. Talk through elevations pretty quickly. The top one's probably the one to pay the most attention to. That is showing all 3 stories of the building with the cursor is on upper floor now, and you can just pull it down. So you see the cut and grade as we move from right to left. We have the 3-story building, it steps up, we have a 2-story building, steps up further, we have just these. So we're trying to get all of the cut moved as far north as we can, away from the flat areas, and building as much as we can. Slide. Working through materials, material choices are predominantly brick with some metal panel. We're looking at 2 different colors of brick, the brick color to the bottom and then the paler color above it. And then looking at stacking bonds in different ways to get a different texture of the building. The light green color is a metal panel. Lift that up real high to eliminate or reduce the amount of bending that might take place, and certainly to use it more as an accent in this panel. Next slide. And just focusing in a little bit more, you see the window delineation, types of windows, the way the brick is stacked. You can see above the windows off to the right, we run a stack bond, and next to it, we're running bonds to get a different feel from the brick, but using the same material, same contractors, and trying to get the most effective cost on bidding. Last slide. Okay, right past them. Here's a image of the building from the west side parking lot. This is the back main entrance. And you see the canopy over the entrance to get everybody out of the weather before they get inside. The mix of brick and metal panel. Off to the left, you see the gray retaining walls. We're showing them as a cut rock at this point. And then behind that is the upper parking lot. And then the grade behind that with the trees is the actual grade as you go towards possible. That is a walkthrough on Greenville site. And have a full consultant team and myself. Any questions?
Thank you. Anybody have any questions? In the commission? How would you address the parking? Okay. How would you address the environment issues such as what savings and climate issues?
But the building is designed to meet or exceed the high efficiency building standards that the state has set. We need to do that in order to qualify for a grant. So you're looking at a super efficient roof insulation structure, and along with the walls, we run continuous insulation on the outside of the wall now, so that you get no thermal break. Windows are very high efficient. We reduce the windows to be what the teachers and education planners say you need in rooms, and then make them as efficiently placed as possible so we get the most daylight in. We're shading those windows with sun shades, so in the summer you're not picking up that much heat from it. Tinting the windows to the south so we can keep heat from solar heat gain from picking up, and then running the most efficient heating and cooling units that we can. Building is was considered for photovoltaic devices on the roofs when we designed the structure. Unfortunately, none of the programs that are available to us really work in the city and the building, but we'll continue to pursue those. On the outside, you're looking at reusing as much of the site as you can, minimizing the number of trees that are cut as much as possible. Reusing as much of the material that is excavated as possible, and trying to buy as much as we can, at least on site within 500 miles, and reduce over the road transport.
Any other questions?
Can you show me pedestrian circulation around the building and also Basel Avenue in Main Street? Yeah, do you have drive sidewalks?
We do. So if we start over in the upper right, sorry, Dan, I know you can follow that. We're talking about still working on the sidewalk coming down along that driveway. At this point, we are working with the city to see if getting out to Boswell with the sidewalk is beneficial, because it will just end when you get to Boswell. You see,
Your sidewalks on Basel Avenue. No.
and that always becomes the dilemma. A lot of times we'll run it all the way to the street and just make it ready to connect. The reason we're hesitant to do that here is that it encourages walking by the students. Because once you have a sidewalk out to there, you can say to the students who live close by, you need to walk. And Boswell, we're not really seeing as a street to walk on since it doesn't have sidewalks. So what we'll do is set it up so that the sidewalk can be built by the topography and then take it as far out as everybody's comfortable with. That's where we're showing it there, the little gray line of the driveway. Just down, go down the other one. And go up and find it. That's the end of the sidewalk. And that is all at a handicap accessible grade, doesn't need railings or anything to be ADA accessible. And it goes down to the lawn, free play area, the paved area, and playscapes at that level. And then it comes down to the upper, to the upper portions of the building through the gymnasium. We look at getting a sidewalk that will connect, and it becomes not impossible, but cost prohibitive. It needs to fall back on itself a number of times. So we're still dealing with about 30 feet of grade change, almost 300 feet of the sidewalk. It's a real effort. We had designed it a few times, and we're having a tough time justifying getting that. And we can't simply connect it with stairs because then we're not compliant with the ADA.
Yeah.
So on the lower edge, you see sidewalks all around the front of the building and out and around the parking lot. We did not cross over to Golden Street. We would have we could have a crosswalk right where Dan's cursor is, right over where that red bar is. That could be a painted crosswalk, and when sidewalks were brought in, it might break that. And if there's sidewalks up, I think from the outside, the lower side of the building. If there is a sidewalk out there, we'll connect it with a painted crosswalk. I'm trying to remember my photographs of it's on here.
So. One more, and this we may have said. Is there an elevator in the building?
Yes.
And then one last thing. Have you considered any possible expansion in the future? I know that we're just building it, but we put a lot of money into like Huntington School and Bishop School, and now we're not going to use it anymore. So, was any of that considered?
We looked at the ability to expand on this site. It's very difficult.
I know.
The next, even Stanton, we present Stanton as that's
Small.
the next two sites, Uncas and Priori, give you a better chance of being able to be expanded. All of the 10-year forecasts for population in the city remain fairly flat. So we're school age population.
Right, but that could change.
Right, it can,
Years.
it can, and the idea is to plan ahead for it.
Right.
And I would think that you'll be better served when we look at Moriarty than it's on the expanded.
Thank you.
Jim, you have another question? Other questions in support? What are the guidelines these days for students security?
There are a number of guidelines that the state has adopted. And probably, in my opinion, the wisest one is that the district has to have a school security plan, has to be updated regularly. And it has to involve the city agencies that would respond to it, including the state police. And as we plan, we have to include them in our plan. So all of that takes place typically and probably understandably not in public meetings. But what we have in here, in our typical approach, is that you cannot get into the building without passing an adult, and you cannot get into the building unless that adult says okay. So all of the doors that you're seeing around this would be locked during the day, including the main entrance. You would be buzzed into the vestibule. There is a exchange window similar to a bank, and those windows are typically bulletproof. A fair amount of the glass in that area would be bullet resistant, meaning that a bullet will go through it, glass will not break, but the bullet will deflect. And then the idea is to not let anybody in the building. Once you get into there, the security cameras will track in order to help with something that does happen. Our push is always make sure something doesn't happen. So the main entrance has windows out onto that main point. And the person who's staffed there at minimum staffing would have a view out onto the parking lot so they could see someone coming. The community health center and nurse's office have a view out onto the bus stop. So they would see someone coming from that side. And the school resource officer is up top. So if someone were coming from the gym entrance, the first office they pass is the SRO. The basic approach to it all is that your chance of being bullied in the school is about 1 in 8. Your chance of seeing a gunner being shot is about 1 in 8 million. So let's stop the 1.8 million in the parking lot and then build a community school so that people interact, public uses it, the community comes in, and that builds a better response. I would go further into security, but I'm really not real anxious to do that publicly.
Any questions from the commission? Any questions from the public? Yes, ma'am. Can you state your name, please?
Marie Saints May. Marie Saints May, I live at my neighbor.
Yeah. Now, why don't you come down and speak to the podium?
My name is Marie Saints May. 160 Golden Street, so Greenville, right here in the White House, and here's the space right here.
Do you mind saying your name slower and spell it?
Marie.
But we have to spell it too, because our clerk is taking it.
Oh, okay, Marie. M-A-R-A, last name Saint Sume, S-A-I-N-T, space, S-U-M-E, Saint Sume. So the school is basically my neighbor before it got knocked down. So the question that I have for my household, and I'm sure we already went over this, we got here a little bit late, but how long will this take and when will it get started?
Should have put that into my presentation.
Good question.
I'll do it for the next. We are on schedule to be ready to bid this towards the end of this year, before construction would start on our current schedule in March 2025, as soon as frost is out of the ground. And it typically takes between 12 and 16 months to build a school. The good thing with building schools is that the work and deliveries and noisy stuff are pretty well scheduled, and they can be scheduled around, to a certain degree, community functions and times when disturbance really can't be tolerated. But it's as opposed to a housing development or something else, it's a much more structured, much more rigid arrangement. You have an owner's private tenant standing right there. It's CSG and a construction management firm from Downs Construction. And between DRA, CSG, and Downs, we've been working through schedules for construction and making sure that we have everything on the tables. surrounding neighbors to minimize disturbance.
That answer your question now? Any other questions from the public? Ma'am, well, speak at the microphone, state your name and address, please.
I have 249 Boswell Avenue, Elizabeth, Ohio. Not concerned with the traffic. It's loaded as it is now. So that's not. How is it gonna affect us on?
So what I heard was concern about increased traffic. And the study shows Boswell is a tough road to work with. So,
Sunday.
oh, I don't know how to do this. I need to speak here in order to be on the record.
Microphone, please.
Other one.
No problem. It's important that everybody hear what we're talking about. What I started to say, as you know, Boswell is a tough road to work with. It has a fairly wide right of way, a fairly narrow paved area. And it goes back to those stone walls that's owned by the city. That's not really the problem with it. It's a bump that's west and south of the school entrance. And that, to grind that down would be a major expense. So what we did was we split the entrances between the two sides of the building and moved the majority of the parking to come off of Golden with staff parking off of Boswell. So that gives you a more uniform time for arrival and leaving of those cars. And then the suggestion to DPW and the police department is that there be a traffic light to control in and out of that entrance.
Don't have to go down Eighth Street to get to go.
Or you can come up Golden all the way down the other end of the piece.
He has to come up, if you're gonna speak, you have to come up to the microphone, we can't hear you. Yeah,
That's all.
did you hear what she said?
I did.
Can you repeat it for us?
Sure. Would you have to get to Golden off of Hickory? And the answer is not only. That you can come onto Golden from other access points as well. And Hickory is actually wide enough to work as a city street. You're looking at a fair amount of traffic at pickup and drop off, and then virtually no traffic for the rest of the day. So the impact from the school is generally well timed and well understood. It's about 15-20 minutes in the morning, 15-20 minutes in the afternoon, and follows a pretty good pattern. The majority of the people that come to a school are staff, and you can tell them which way to get to the school.
That answer your question now? Any other questions in the public? Any other questions? Staff have any presentation at this time? Yes.
So just note that staff has worked with the team for quite a while now. This process that's been on the 6th of the meeting. We really didn't have many comments for this application at this point. Just note that certificates of mailing. Just noted in my review memo for quite a bit of detail. Documentation that was provided for you to review. All staff comments or either no comments or comments have been addressed at this point. I will show the exhibit list on the record prior to approval of the application. Site is outside of any sensitivity areas and the control person database. We did recommend that the parcels be merged into one prior to the filing of Mylars. That's one of your suggested conditions for approval. I believe that's it at this point. You give me anything. I'll bring it up. I do have one email, public comment email to But briefly, this is the exhibit list, which I'll provide to the clerk of the record. And here's the public comment email, which I'll be to. It's from Kathleen Murphy. Email today to say this is regarding SP 2402. Should say 164, 165 Golden Street, property on Boswell, located between 363 and 45 Boswell Avenue. Re-blasting, ledge, and safety concerns. No, I only just received notification, re-subject meeting action late last week, attempting to input some pertinent info. Such Boswell Avenue is already inundated with excessive traffic going into Norwich and out to Taffel and beyond. It's very dangerous to have it on the road dumping into an area to be used for children, buses, school-related workers and visitors, etc. This proposed school access road should be considered a safety hazard for all travel in Boswell. Golden Street should remain the point of entry as it was for years. I've lived on Boswell Avenue for over 37 years and raised my two sons there as a single mother. While at home, myself and my grandparents resided in Boswell for several years as well when I was a child in this area. Point one, much of Boswell Avenue sits on a stone ledge. In 2006 timeframe, I unfortunately had to deal with an access road blasting and moved by Norwich for a proposed condo site at 229 Boswell. That location for the proposed condo access road site was originally a one car width right of way to a small home, but the condos were eventually built. I had to fight the blasting, which came within 7 feet of my 1985 home, which I timed it. I officially conveyed sits directly on ledge running beneath my home, which can be seen in my root cellar or my kitchen upstairs bedrooms. My request to not blast so close to my home in fear of damage was reported by the city and Brown builder. The blasting continued until the state of Connecticut officials who came to my home after I contacted them and who were on site that day to monitor the blasting that to be done that day. The blasting was monitored by state officials' equipment. Blasting on the site was permanently shut down forever as the blasting overstated Connecticut regulations. Equipment was set up adjacent to my front porch, and I did sustain ceiling cracks, etc. from that road blasting. The condo road was supposed to be wide enough for sidewalks, but was never completed for that safety concern and 3 children and condo residents. It doesn't even permit 2 cars to leave and enter safely at the same time. Yet, Norwich Planning and Zoning ignored it and approved the lack of compliance. Note, I have a copy of the original plans on how that road was supposed to be built for safety, etc. The planned condo build-up was never fully completed due to blasting and furniture being shut down for that construction site. Point number 2, ledge blasting and safety consequences / issues should be recognized and considered. Read that proposed road site. Golden Street was used as a prior vehicle school access in the past. That road still prevails. Please stop wasting time and dollars attempting to repeat past blasting difficulties. And that proposed road should not go forward. Sincerely submitted, Kathleen Murphy, 860-857-6837. Yes, the city of Norwich hard copy of the scheduled public hearing will be subject to Golden Street, etc. Sent to me in snail mail showing the efficiency and writing and Freddie and at the very bottom indicated email addresses. That's it. With that.
Any other comments?
No other comments. One.
That's what that idea. Would you mind addressing, if you can, those concerns regarding the last meeting?
We undertook a series of borings and people tests on the site to determine the overburden. And we know that the soil runs anywhere from 6 to 20 feet before we get to ledge. We then undertook and are continuing, it's not quite done yet, a series of investigations of the ledge and the density of the ledge and the potential depth of that ledge. And that was done by boring down to the ledge and using a series of small detonations and seismograph to gauge the thickness of the ledge, which is a system that wasn't in place when the previous project was done. It's used for a lot of highway work, so you can idea of how much ledge you may need. It's very sophisticated. And as Michael will tell you, very expensive way to know what's underground. We have an advantage over the private development and that as a public entity and with a construction manager, there are stopgaps on the size of the charge that would be used, the number and time that you would do blasting, and a far greater level of control in the private development. We have blasted on similar sites, and through the series of controls, we've been successful with that. There are pre-blast inspections of conditions of all the houses in the area, and that's generally sent out within a specified range to homeowners asking if you want a house inspection or is blasting starts, please tell us, and it will be conducted by the blasting contractor. Their insurance is set up to cover any documented damage, and pre-blast inspection is designed to eliminate pre-existing problems with the house from being cleaned up and blasting. It is always a bit of a leap to say we're going to blast inside an urban site, but it does happen. It happens on more and more projects as we start to use buildings built to different time and different standards.
Thank you. Anything from staff?
I would just add, if someone chooses to make a motion with the conditions for now.
Do we have any other comments from the public at this time, either for or against the application? Anybody here or anybody online? Hearing none, and I will. Close the public hearing. Motion by Kathy. Second by Dean, to close the public hearing on any opposed? Okay, so the public hearing is closed. Submission's pleasure on acting the application. Taken out for the next hearing. Does anybody want to make a motion concerning the application itself?
It's that I would like to add conditions. So first, I would like to include all of the staff comments.
Making a motion
Yeah, to approve, yes, I'm sorry. Motion to approve with all of the staff comments. I would like them to add a crosswalk on Golden Street, right? Yeah. Yeah, and on the other side, by Boswell, that they did indicate they were going to grade that area, and I have no problem with that. But I would like to make sure that that's. Two, I would also like to see an asphalt plan here, and is that part of your requirement?
Not necessarily, but if it's required.
Yeah, I think it's good, because then we know exactly what was built, it should be done. Okay, and then I would also like to, recommend that if they need to, that they conduct a pre-blast survey, and I think the standard is 1,500 feet from the site, and they should this should be done by a qualified, engineer, geologist, who's familiar with, blasting or pre-blast surveys. They should survey before and after. And probably already know, that's what I would, recommend. And that's my motion.
Do we have a second? Second by Jim Porto to approve with conditions as set forth by Kathy. Any discussion regarding the motion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Votes, so the motion carries as set forth. Okay. Next matter would be special permit 2403, which is 386 New London Turnpike. It's a request for a special permit for the construction of an elementary school, including associated parking areas, access drives, play areas, and more management improvements, portion of which will within a FEMA designated special flood hazard area or floodway property, and it's the application of the city of Norwich. So the assessors map 108, block 1, block 12, zone R. Yeah. Oh. That's made a motion for the public hearing.
Second.
Second by Dean, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so the public hearing is open.
Good evening, everyone. Greg Smalley, DR Architects, and with us online is consultant team. If any questions come up. And to my left, I didn't introduce him last. So from CSG, the city's owners project manager. This presentation will take us through an overview of the proposed Stanton project, and will show rationale behind the project and take us through various aspects. Next slide. So the schools grew out of the master plan the city did 2 years ago, with the intention of addressing the fiscal needs and educational needs of the buildings. At that point, and still, we're running 7 elementary schools with various enrollments and various qualities of buildings. Next slide. Our attendance areas for the elementary schools, Stanton is down in the lower left in pink and reaches over across the river to the Greenville neighborhood. Uncas below that is carrying some of the old Greenville neighborhood, and Huntington is coming down towards Stanton as well, resulting in a kind of convoluted arrangement of attendance zones. The intention is to get that rationalized as much as possible and provide some parity in the educational environment. Next slide shows the outcome of that master plan and 4 new elementary schools, and consolidating the amount of real estate that the district owns, not recommending to give any of it up, but to rather stop running as many schools as you are and start running better quality education environments. This plan was approved by the city's voters, and the first 2 buildings, Stanton and Greenville, have been approved by the state at an 80% reimbursement. They're moving through those projects now. Next slide. The city plan identifies the nodes for development. It also identifies the rural areas of the city, with the intention of trying to preserve those as much as possible. Stanton is right on the edge, just north of the future node, and on the eastern edge of the rural area. The intention there is to reuse the site as much as possible, avoid taking any more rural land, and it also keeps us closer to the population center that school would serve. If we moved it west, we would start busing more kids westward. We don't really have a good east-west roadway calculated to do that. So looking at the Stanton site seems to us during the planning phase to be the wisest choice here. Next slide. It is your prototypical baby boom school, single floor, not really built with the future in mind. We're catching up with population explosions as we went. It is well past its sell-by date. And the cost of repairing it would probably exceed the cost of the conclusions we came from. It is on public water, public sewer, has a adequate electrical supply. NPU has agreed that they have capacity for servicing the building, and it was taking off its own septic system quite a few years ago, and runs a pump system now. The new design will get rid of the pump system, so we'll actually be minimizing maintenance at the school and using gravity or sanitary sewer. Next slide. This is an interesting site. It's relatively large. It's probably flattest and easily built where the school is right now, running north-south. The light color in the middle is actually the administration area. It's not two buildings, it's actually one long building with 3 different types of roofs on it. And the place where we most wanted to go is where that little notch is cut out, because that's kind of the flattest part of the site, other than what's previously built. But the city doesn't own that. We try not to buy land when we have to. And you can see where our dam is going around in circles, making this easy there. This old road comes down diagonally from that corner to the road to the south there. It also turns and runs along that line back towards the school. And our next slide will show you what that does. This was existing conditions surveyed in the field. You can see where that road comes and turns down to the school, and it bifurcates the wetlands. So somewhere along the history of this site, someone built that road, split that wetlands in two, and that wetlands actually doesn't show up on the town's GIS. We found it in our site survey and identified it. It's fairly extensive, actually. The green lines represent the floodplain as designated by the mapping on the site right now, and the blue lines are floodplain, and we'll address that at the next slide, I believe. Takes us to a slightly better look. So here is your wetlands area in the green outline, the impacted areas in magenta again, and the new areas in green above the roadway, and the yellow and brown are invasive species restoration. So we are going to resurrect and recreate some playground, some wetland area, and get rid of some invasive species at the same time. The orange lines are the upland review areas, and perhaps most importantly, the pink or purple dotted lines are the 100-year floodplain, and blue is the themed floodway. So as part of this effort, we worked with the survey group and our civil engineers and made application to FEMA for a map modification. The floodplains and the flood areas didn't match what we found in the field, and that application was made to FEMA, and those flood areas are actually reduced. So that modification has been approved and put in play, and that actually makes this site more usable, and probably have a net effect of reducing insurance costs for this piece of property.
I just little, so Ford Road, does it go under the?
It does.
Oh, no.
Big culvert. Now, I'll get to the site plan. I'll show you that it's still, even though it's in a culvert, it has no history of flooding. Limits what you can do with it. So it's not a free pass just for the bullets.
No.
Still process. So next slide. See pretty pictures. So here you see the wetlands off to the right there. The new school, in this case, 2 stories, and keeping the existing curb cuts on the London Turnpike at the upper left. Parking for the majority of staff and visitors is top center. Playground, where it says one free play area, that is right over the flood, right over that brook, and we can't have any vertical construction in that flood zone. And the rationale is you've seen pictures of flooded areas, trees, whatnot get caught on the vertical items. So even though that is in the culvert, you can't build vertically on top of that. Basketball court, tennis courts stay where they are. Basketball court next to it gets rearranged and rebuilt. Paved area and the playground 5 12 kids, the pre-K 2 through 5 is now next to the building. We're looking at bus and some staff in and out from that southern entryway. Right now, if you know the site, it's in on the southern entryway and out on the northern. This proposal is to make those both bi-directional, egress, with buses coming down to the front of the school and private vehicles to the north, the north end of the school, the north entrance. That gives us the highest level of safety we can have for kids on bus discharge, private vehicle discharge, and it allows us to have buses flow more freely and get in and out of the site as rapidly, while we can still manage to take in parents and visitors arriving through separate entrance. So we looked at level of service along London Turnpike. That's our major north-south roadway out that way. And it right now is running at about level C in most of the intersections, so good service. And we see forecast no reduction in the level of service. We looked at, I think, 5 intersections here, and all of those came back at level C or better. Good sight lines, good roadway widths. Average speed on New London Turnpike is 1 miles an hour. I'm sure that's not a surprise if anyone who lives over there or drives over there. It's a rapid road. So this separating those two entrances gives us a little bit more control of buses in and out, cars in and out, and it would still allow, if it ever became necessary, for some relatively simple traffic control on morning and afternoon rushes. But overall, the traffic study came back pretty straightforward in this. Excellent. Floor plan, we are planning once again for the same number of kids. It's about 197 kids in each one of the schools. In this case, 2 floors only, so pre-K, K 1 and 2 and 3 on the ground floor. Our admin area at the main entryway there, and then gym and cafeteria along to the left, so they can have public access during non-school hours and use the parking lot and not into the rest of the building. Next floor up is much simpler on this one. It just takes that center spine and runs down and does the upper grades and some of the special classrooms. So in effect, it's taking the existing field for standing that long north-south building, moving it south and bending it a little bit, and then putting the specials side. What that does in effect is get you gymnasiums and cafeterias that are properly sized, which a lot of them have. Next slide. Elevations are similar in massing. It's a longer building. It's a little bit more up and down because the 2 stories portion is a little bit smaller on this, and kind of hugs the ground fairly tightly. Next one, then. Materials, staying with the with brick and the metal panels up higher. Looking to maximize durability and minimize cost by keeping within the limited number of trays that can be big. And that is once again trying to keep the feel of the surrounding neighborhood. At Greenville, you can have the old mill buildings and whatnot. Out at Stanton, you're essentially dealing with a baby housing. So there's not much of a precedence when it comes to design. What we like to do in working district-wide is to stay with similar materials to simplify maintenance for districts, so that they know what's coming up, they know how things age, and they can plan for them accordingly. Next one, again. I think we can jump that and just down this one at the end here. So this is from the entry side from the bus loop. And you see the building kind of hides the back wing, the southern portion of it. Behind the gymnasium, you're looking at the cafeteria to the right there, and the gymnasium behind it. Sorry, the other way. And then that becomes 2-story height behind the classroom. Covered entry in to get people out of the weather before they get inside. And as before, looking at a high efficiency building design with the highest level of energy retention that we can get under the reasonableness of the code and the budgets. And this would start construction by the end of Q1 2025. So March 2025 is anticipated to take the same duration to build, so probably done summer of 2026, and then the old building will come down. So the difference here is the old building stays in place while this building gets built, and that becomes a little bit of a logistical challenge to get materials on site. We have the ability to go through the southern entryway and then turn past the modular buildings that are there to get around to the construction site. And we are working with the property owner of the yeshiva to the front, the synagogue, sorry, to the front, to see if we can access or stage in their parking lot, take some pressure off this site as well. The piece that needs to be borne in mind is these buildings go together in a very structured manner. Deliveries are very well coordinated. If it has to be early morning deliveries or midday delivery or late day delivery, we can build that into the documents as we go. Building on an occupied site is not all that unusual nowadays. It's kind of reuse sites. And in this case, we're quite a ways away from the other building. The only piece we're aiming for is to take down the old building during the summer. So that when school opens, parking lots are done, the fields might not be ready to play on because they have not grown in yet. Playgrounds will be done, parking lots will be done, and the old building will be gone. So you wouldn't have a crossover in the fall when this. That concludes what I have to say for this.
Then, staff division. Yeah.
Again, same thing for this school staff has worked. We have a team quite some time, while it's all approved. We did apply for a letter of amendment from FEMA. One plane. Floodway. And that will be submitted to the city upon receipt. All comments have been either addressed or written comments. We do have the required minimum certificates. We have informed the state archaeologist, it's an area of high sensitivity, but through the development process, SHPO will be involved, as a state private members of SHPO will do that. So the state archaeologist is fine. So I would just add, again, some of these motions approved, the staff will from the memo here, and there is one comment in the public that I'll read. This is from David Evner. He lives at 380 London Turnpike. He asked, is anything planned to reduce or remove water in the floodplain adjacent to even number of houses on the Turnpike from over to this property for Star New State School? Some of the even numbered homes have experienced wet basements. We have septic fields installed. Please pass this along to the powers that be. Thanks, Dave Evner.
Sure. Dan, do you know 380 is downstream?
380, I believe, just for the record, I don't know this. It's my grandparents' former home. I believe it's one or two houses north of the school on same side of the school.
So the plan for the school will increase the amount of stormwater that's collected. They can actually get, if you go the other down through the slideshow, past that end slide. This is the stormwater plan for that site. And you see all of the brown lines and brown grids. Brown lines are water collection that is being picked up off the site that's not being done now. The grid areas are underground detention bases. And they are being put in advance because the existing stay in place. So we can't, we don't really have enough area to do a surface retention basin. So these will be under the parking lots. They require virtually no service once they're in. They collect water and discharge at a controlled rate. The difference that may help with the upstream issues is that we're collecting stuff along that northern driveway, which is not being done now. So those lines there may help a little bit upstream. I think you'll see the bigger benefit of this project downstream as we control the water. It's tough for us to control water upstream. And we can't increase the amount of water flowing through culvert because the culvert's not restricted. So I will say that the upstream people probably I would not expect much improvement on upstream conditions. I would expect quite a bit of improvement on site. And then that will help downstream.
All right, thank you.
Right, just one more thing to show you this. I did. Sure, it's fine. This the exhibit list that's loading on the screen.
Yeah, any questions from the commission? Comments from the public? Listen now. Please come up and give your name and address.
Gillespie.
Sorry. That's okay. We just want to hear what happens.
Amy Gillespie, we own property on Main Street, so our name butts back end of that Main Street property. It also runs alongside that road that I talked about. I have two questions. One on this map that we received, it kind of shows it's two borders, like one we look in this area of purple. On these maps, and you know something to explain what that is.
Take a look at that.
It's the radius.
Oh, it's that shows all the properties that fall within 100 feet of the property of the school, that's all it is.
Okay, so that's just like a buffer that.
It's for them to notify everyone that falls within 100 feet of the boundaries, yes.
And my second question is, I didn't see the article, but there was an article in the Monday, I guess, that talked about. Building the school, and it talked about a nature preserve being built in the back there, in that property. Does anyone know about that?
Any information in your nature preserve?
Nothing per se nature preserve. The site design where we are addressing the invasive species in yellow and maintaining that roadway is to allow the back part of the site to still have access from the school. It's a real good outdoor classroom, and it could be developed as the school comes into use and starts up, but as a part of this project.
Yeah, I would just add, I'm a wetlands agent for the city as well, and when you had mentioned, there was talk of using that green area on the map here, yellow and brown as kind of an outdoor classroom. And there was talk that in the future, it was decided there could be trails way in the back, but there's no plans at this time.
Does that answer your question, ma'am?
Yes, I do.
Any other comments or questions from the public? Anything else on that? We've got Stacy coming up. What you got? I think we'll allow it.
Are you speaking as a citizen or on the building committee or?
No, I'm speaking as a citizen and as a representative of Beth Jacobs Synagogue as president and the present House of Grounds chairman, Beth Jacobs Synagogue, closest neighbor to Stanton School to the south. So I just wanted to
State your name.
state School. Beth Jacobs Synagogue is located at 400 New London Turnpike. Synagogue has been neighbors in Stanton School for over 40 years. And we have enjoyed our relationship with Stanton School. And I am here tonight on behalf of the board of directors. In the hopes that you will approve the new school SP 24-03, approve their request for a special permit. Like I said, we are excited about the possibility of a new school in the back, or the probability of a new school in the back. And we're already spoken with Greg about synagogue has a large parking lot. We may be able to help with some lay down, etc. So I'm here in support of you granting the approval special. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else from the public want to speak? Yes, ma'am.
Could you please spell your last name, too?
Hi, my name is Liliana Garcia. I live at 189 Maple Street. With my family. But I have a question, is if anything will affect that area?
Maple Street. Right, could you possibly address that?
Did you bring it? No. Maple is north of us, south of us. No. So we will not be impacting anything south of the site. Moving everything down a little bit from the north and building stuff from the far enough away, you know, cleared area is now, but no impact seeing south. The traffic no problems.
Does that answer your question? Yes. Okay, thank you. Anybody else have any comments or questions? Want to speak in favor of this application? Anybody else? Okay, hearing none. Staff is done.
I just have one, that the zoning officer provided today, the transformer pad and the generator pad, south kind of touches the setback line. We talked about that, even if you could move it a few feet in from the setback line, it still has a appearance.
We'll take that either as a condition of your approval or as a stated design, either way.
That being said, any other comments, questions, input from the public? Staff. Okay, so I'm going to motion to close the public hearing. Motion to close the hearing. Motion to close with the portal. All in favor?
Aye.
He says aye.
Yeah. All right, so that carries the public hearing is closed. Anybody wants to make a motion pertaining to the application?
With the conditions that are outlined for the staff. In addition, if they move the transformer. That was mentioned by the CEO, and that they provide next.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve conditions as set forth in officially to provide the pad movement as outlined and to provide as-built plans. We have a second.
This is Ella, I'll second.
Thank you. Motion by Kathy, second by Ella. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, so the motion carries. The permit is granted with conditions stated. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Thanks, Cal.
All right. All right, so that brings us to the special permit 24-0440 Connecticut Avenue. This is a special permit for a private educational institution. So grade 8 property in Fremont Realty Corporation, AKA Olinda. Application of Fremont Realty on behalf of Nacho Healthcare, Assessor's Map 50, Block 1, Block 53, Zone BP. So somebody here to speak in connection with that application.
My name is Michael D'Amato. I'm here on behalf of the Realty Corporation.
1 second. Oh, I'm sorry, yeah. I got it. Okay, so can we have a motion to open the public?
I'll make a motion to open.
Thank you. Second.
I'll second.
We got a lot of seconds.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second, to open the public hearing, all in favor? You opposed? I'm sorry that the public hearing is open.
Great, thank you. Obviously, this will be very different than the other two figures tonight. This school is for students who are very special. It felt falling behind in normal academic environment, academically, socially, and behavior. This school will be a private school, indicated it's owned by Harvard Health and operated by Nacho, which is the school systems. We have other schools throughout the state of similar. Students that come to the school are coming from the local community. It's obviously Norwich. And only maybe between 31 and 50 students maximum. Currently, there are plans for 31 to start the next school year. School operates the same way public schools do in terms of 189 days per calendar year. There will be 23 faculty and staff members of the school. Building, obviously, to accommodate that. This building previously held over 100 employees. Now, the building will have less than 70 total faculty, staff, and students here at maximum capacity. It's a single level school. There are some changes that we made to the site. The drive stays the same. Building stays the same. The only difference is in the walkway in front of the building where the students will be dropped off, and there are 2 handicap parking spaces. Other than that, there are minor modifications within the building to accommodate the classroom sizes. And that is really it. And the students will arrive by van, with very small school buses, and come into the existing building. The 2 locations are coordinated. Water, sewage, all public water and sewer, easily accommodate the needs of the school. Special issues, parking is available, there's more parking there for the school. And I'm here to answer any questions you may have. You want to make your presentation from Trump?
So in my original memo, staff had a number of comments, extensive number of comments regarding the site plan itself. Then all the revisions have been made at this point. City engineer is satisfied, the zoning enforcement officer is satisfied. The note we came up with just this afternoon before the meeting is the building in the back that's labeled as existing building. Once that store relation to the school.
In relation to the school will not be used. It's currently a warehouse, and will remain as that. There will be some private storage in it, it's not publicly available to anyone. Right now, the plan is to leave that facility alone, it's not related to the school.
I think that the zoning officer would like it, he has comments in the application for it, we'll just label that as what it is, so it can't be leased separately, it's just kind of storage. School, private storage. So just make it. Other than that, fencing. Put on the plan, this proposed fence for gate, which was a state requirement, within the slope. The sidewalks were added, ADA spaces were added.
About the drainage. That said, they would be able to.
Oh, yes, we don't have a written, we still don't have a paper request. So
So why, if they don't, you're not changing the drainage.
we're not changing anything, they just need to request a next part of the application. So
Drainage is not changing.
I don't think it's
Say
safe.
yes, I don't care if those requirements. It's up to you.
We don't have them, they weren't submitted, we just needed a. I think to meet that requirement. If you.
Can you do that?
Yeah, and you write it down and his, you know, when you're doing stuff, you can ask for a waiver for those items.
Yeah.
So if the drainage and
It
then.
was the road and center, we were small on. That's the other item, you want to keep it up.
They're not doing anything, why would they need?
Because it's a requirement of the application package.
To either have them or to have them, but
Correct.
yeah, you understand how this is the motto, this is just a formality. Even though you don't have to do any work regarding those things. And there's no requirement to submit work plans for those things. You just need to ask for those.
So it's the drainage counts, ENS control bond. And we do need copies of the deed.
That could be, there's a condition approval. Submit those deeds. To the fence, the application.
Do you have any other questions or comments from staff? If I could, Jim? Yes. We are Saturday services. Starting Connecticut. Sorry, you're at 40 Connecticut.
Yes, it is.
So, coming up the hill, get to the park.
When we have the hill that's on the left, and maybe after the yes.
Any other questions or comments from the commission? For staff?
Just again, I've asked, show the screen now and the exhibit list, which I will talk to the part. If someone chooses to make.
All right. That being said, any comments or questions from any members of the public here, online? Any questions or comments from the public for or against this petition? Okay, hearing none, then I would ask for a motion to close the public. Motion by Kathy to close the hearing. Second by Mr. Porto. All in favor? Any opposed? So the public hearing on 24/05 is before forward is closed.
Just make a note that you should act on the waiver request.
First, so the public hearing is closed. We have a waiver request for drainage calculations, erosion and sediment control. And bond. Something you just want to make a motion to approve. We have a motion to grant waivers for the.
So I can read it in right here. So Barbara Realty is requesting waiver of the requirements to submit a drainage plan and begin as bond. That's part of the special permit.
So the motion is made to grant those waivers, so we have a second.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, so the waivers are granted. That being said, then we can move on to a motion regarding the agent itself. Who wants to make a motion?
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah, just a quick note, I asked that you add the CEO's request for the building, as we discussed.
Yeah.
Submit along the property.
And I will make a motion to put the application with the provision that building, that it's not labeled, we label. And then deem provided. And the rest of the.
Conditions, yeah, so no. So we have a motion with conditions, we have a second. We have a second by Porto. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Any opposed? The motion has carries. Motion is approved with those conditions. Right. And we've tabled SB 245. We don't have any extension requests behind that.
We'd like to waive the treatment staff report tonight, if that's okay.
Sure. So it's staff report will go till July.
Yeah. Oh, I guess I was to say that the meeting of the meeting committee of July 10th. You'll be getting it.
All right.
Okay.
Sounds good.
We hired a consultant, which is our summer. Oh, they really have. That's.
Okay. Based on that, we get a motion to adjourn. Motion by Jim Porto, with a second. Second by Danny. All in favor? Aye. Adjourn. Thank you, guys.